On today's Family Vacationer, we take a look at Galaxy's Edge, the Star Wars themed land at Disneyland and Disney World. Danny's going to interview Shane and Joanna, who recently visited Walt Disney World, and get their take on the new attraction.
Welcome to the Family Vacationer with Rob and Danny. The go-to podcast for families on the move.
Hey everyone, this is episode 8 of the Family Vacationer. This is Rob. We'll hear from Danny in just a little bit. In today's episode, we're going to talk about Galaxy's Edge, which is now open at both Disneyland and Walt Disney World. Now, so far, the volume of crowds expected haven't materialized, leading to speculation that this new land is some kind of failure for Disney. I think it's important to separate the business implications from the consumer experience. There's lots of factors to consider here. There was a very real concern that the new area would be hopelessly crowded. Maybe that's one reason for the lower than expected attendance. Additionally, Galaxy's Edge opened on both coasts with only one of the two rides operational. The Rise of the Resistance is the second ride in the land and set to open December 5th in Orlando and January 17th in Anaheim at Disneyland. Of the two rides, Rise of the Resistance has a real opportunity to be a game changer with new ride technology. It's supposedly going to last about 15 minutes, which for an attraction at an amusement park or a theme park is a long, long time. So maybe some families decided they'd wait until both rides were working before they planned to visit. Maybe Star Wars just isn't quite the draw that it was expected to be. If you look at some of the recent box office numbers, that lends a little credence to that as well. In Disneyland, it was especially interesting remembering there's only 3 official Disney hotels in Anaheim at Disneyland. Now, all of the surrounding hotels raised their prices in anticipation of large crowds, and that could have been another factor in the lack of crowds. They just decided, you know what, that's too rich for my blood, I'm not going. The reality is maybe it's a bit of all these things combined with a larger issue that's facing Disney that we'll talk about after Danny's interview. And historically, I think it's important to put things in perspective because both Disneyland and Walt Disney World themselves had inauspicious openings and have gone on to be very successful. So that's the business perspective. Let's talk about things from the consumer experience level. Let's give a little background on exactly what Galaxy's Edge is. Okay, the story behind the area is that it's the Black Spire Outpost, and it's a starport that's kind of gone the way of Route 66, and that it used to be a main hub of transportation throughout the galaxy, but with technology advancing and new lanes of travel opened, the outpost is where people go to get off the grid. Now, the First Order, the bad guys in the Star Wars story, sent a garrison to occupy the outpost and search for something or someone. The land is full of characters you know, while leaving room for future storytelling around Star Wars stories to come. That's tough to say, Star Wars stories to come. So that's the backstory. Let's get a first-hand account of the experience. Let's send it over to Danny to talk with Joanna and Shane about their visit to Galaxy's Edge. Take it away, Dan.
Thanks, Rob. Hey, everybody, it's me, Danny, and I'm here with some friends of mine, Joanna and Shane. Now, I'm not sure if you would call Joanna and Shane Disney fanatics, but maybe. I don't know. What do you guys say?
I think so.
Yeah, some people have called us Disney nerds.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool. There's nothing wrong with being a Disney nerd, right? Well, Joanna and Shane, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with me. As Rob said, we're going to talk specifically about your experience at Galaxy's Edge. But first, let's lay a little bit of groundwork. How often you guys heading down to Disney these days?
In the last year, we've been 4 times, and a couple of years ago, we went down a total of 8.
Wow. That's in a year.
Yes.
Okay. So you guys are laying tracks.
Right.
That's awesome. Okay, so yeah, maybe compared to me, you're a Disney fanatic, and I love Disney, but man, that's great. All right, so you're pass holders.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's the best way to get value for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I hear a lot of people say that if you want value and you love it, get the pass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
All right, so
totally worth it.
All right, so everybody heard that. Get the pass if you're a Disney fan. All right, now you guys were there in August. Now Galaxy's Edge opened at the end of the month. But you were there before the official opening. Is that correct?
That is correct. We were there 10 days before the official opening. And the only reason we were able to do that is because of being annual pass holders.
Okay. So the pass holders got to go in to Galaxy's Edge.
Right. They opened up registration via email, and I was actually in a virtual queue for 45 minutes. until finally it opened up to where it gave me a couple time slots to where we could pick when we wanted to go preview that amazing area.
Awesome. Okay. Now, would you say that you're Star Wars fans, or are you just Disney fans who visited the new Star Wars area?
Well, we definitely enjoy the original films the best. We are Star Wars fans, but we are more Disney fans. We did not plan this trip specifically because of Galaxy's Edge. However, once we saw the email, we were like, okay, we've got to experience Galaxy's Edge.
So you say the original films, the ones that began in the 70s.
Yes,
Yes.
the original films.
Yes, the original films.
Original films, not the prequels, but the originals.
That's a different show altogether right there.
That is, yeah, most definitely.
You know, are you talking episode 1 or the first episode, or what is it?
Right.
You're talking about
Release date.
Exactly, yeah. The one that came out when I was 6. Yes, I'm that old. All right, so you guys are somewhat fans. Now, you first walk in to Galaxy's Edge. First impressions.
The first thing we saw was a lot of landscape, but then the first thing that really caught my attention was seeing the X-Wing fighter. Seeing an X-Wing fighter in person, it made me want to jump onto the ship and fly it myself. But then after we walked past that, after taking that in for a moment, we went through a marketplace, and it had a lot of shops right next to each other, a couple places to get some food, some snacks, that sort of thing. But then after going through the marketplace, we came around this corner, and all of a sudden, I just had to stop because we saw literally the fastest ship in the galaxy. We saw something that just literally made me tear up. I cried tears of joy seeing the Millennium Falcon there in person.
Yeah.
And that really, really made me feel like I was in a completely different world.
Oh, okay. All right. I was holding the map, and when we came around that corner, we both just stopped, and I put down the map, and we both pulled out our phones to take pictures, and we were both just getting emotional, and it was just really cool that, you know, we just rounded that corner, and there is the ship.
Yeah.
And you see just people walking around, and it was just amazing.
Did you get the feeling that it was just kind of your childhood coming to life?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. That's what my first thought was. You know, if I was standing there looking at this thing, it would just be my childhood, but real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I mean, in the 80s, you know, we're playing with the models, but here it is in front of you. I could see how it would be. Oh my gosh, here's my childhood, and it's like life size in front of you.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
That's
Exactly.
amazing.
Absolutely incredible.
So, in your opinion, Disney's done an excellent job of bringing well, I don't want to say the movies, bringing this world to life.
Oh, without a doubt, they've done an
Yeah.
incredible job. It's different than anything else they've ever done. Compare it to a Pandora over an Avatar, over an Animal Kingdom, or compared to even in Hollywood Studios, Toy Story Land. I'm actually more of a fan of Toy Story in terms of the movies. However, by 2, Galaxy's Edge, they just put a lot more detail into it, and it just really feels more like you're in that world.
Yeah. Just the small touches, like the trash cans,
Okay.
did not look like trash cans in the park. I can't describe how they looked, but I mean, it looked very like another planet looking. It didn't look out of place.
Okay.
And I mean, just the theming of everything and just the detail that Disney took. And even with the cast members, we had some questions for them. And, like, for example, there was a shirt that we were looking for. And I'll let Shane tell that one.
So there was a certain shirt that I had to have, saw other guys wearing it, and I was like, I've got to find that shirt. So asking cast members where I could find that shirt, they all never broke character whatsoever, and they said, I haven't seen it here in our world and on this planet, but I've heard that you might possibly be able to find that shirt on another planet. So that was their code way of telling me it's not here in Batuu, but it is inside the park in another area of the park. So,
Right.
So that was really just great, the way that they did not break their character whatsoever, but it was completely they are inhabitants of Batuu.
Yeah.
And they would say, we think it's in this world called Hollywood Studios, and there's there's a shop in this world. It's next to another place, another ride or attraction, we think, called Star Tours. And so, but they just did not break character at all. They never said, you know, oh, you'll want to get out of here and you'll turn up here. They just stayed in character as if they were from that planet.
So you can't walk around the corner. You have to leave the planet
Yes.
to get. Well, that's
Yes.
cool.
Exactly.
No, I love it. I mean, let's commit to the character, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's great commitment.
That's very cool. All right, so give us a rundown of everything to the best of your memory. What can a guest expect to be able to do or see there?
There's so many different opportunities right now, but I know that they are still working on more opportunities. There are, again, a lot of different shops where you can build your own lightsaber, which would be an incredible experience. You could also do something like we were able to get some blue milk, and it was just being Star Wars fans. It was nice to be able to walk up and try something different for sure. Something else that we were impressed with that we did not do ourselves, but we talked to another guest that they were playing on their phone, and we were wondering what they were doing. There's a app with the Play Disney app in which you can actually activate different areas of the land through your app, through your phone, through what they call the data pad. You're able to hold your phone up to, let's say, a certain door, and lights will light up on the door.
Wow.
So it connects with that.
Okay.
So it's very interactive compared to some other areas of that park or compared to Disney in general. It's a lot more interactive. We would like to take advantage of that next time we go, for sure. You could also, of course, fly the Millennium Falcon without a doubt. That was absolutely amazing. But there's a lot of other things that I know they are still working on. For example, Rise of the Resistance. They're working. That one is not open yet, but that is another attraction that will be there. I believe by the end of the year is when they're opening up that one.
Okay, awesome. So you're talking about building a lightsaber. That's in the workshop, right? Savi's
Right.
workshop.
Yep, Savi's workshop is that one. There's also an area where you can build a droid as well, and that.
Droid Depot.
Yes, exactly. Droid Depot. Yes, sir. You got it.
Yeah. Okay. Were you able to take in any of the food or drink? Well, I know you mentioned the blue milk.
Right.
Anything else that you guys got to sample?
Yeah, we were able to go to the Ronto Roasters where it was a very different kind of experience. And from the standpoint of the map said grilled sausage, but yet you walk up and it's actually more like a jerky type food in terms of wasn't the most impressive thing, be honest with you. That was the only part of Galaxy's Edge that we weren't impressed with is the food options, whether it be Dockside or Docking Bay 7.
That's the hangar. Yeah.
Right. That they didn't have as much variety in that area of the park in terms of food options compared to other areas of the park or compared to other parks in general. But yeah, there are still good options without a doubt. If you're wanting a snack, you can definitely get some good snacks there. But if you're wanting food, it might be best to eat somewhere else before coming into Galaxy's Edge or after you're spending some time in Galaxy's Edge.
Okay, that's good info. Do your research when planning the meals for sure.
Right.
All right, I got to ask you. Finally, I'm getting to this. I got to talk about Smuggler's Run. You flew it. You're the pilot. You flew it twice.
Twice. We were probably at an advantage being a party of two. When they are breaking you into groups, they ask you how many are in your party. And with us being a party of two, we were able to be the pilot twice. There are different roles. And it is the first time that we have ever been on a ride in which what we are doing is actually affecting our experience.
Okay.
So, for example, us flying the Millennium Falcon the first time did not last as long as our second time flying the Falcon.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. When they, it's kind of like Mission Space. everyone has a role. You have the pilot, you have the navigator.
Oh yeah, right.
Various different responsibilities. And so Shane and I were both pilots, and so you walk in, and we sat down, and they're explaining what we'll be doing, what our mission is, and then they kind of give signals of, okay, pilot, take the plane up or something like that. Take the ship up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was one time that I didn't lift it up all the way like I should have, and we crashed. And so that's
Wow.
what Shane was meaning, that the ride didn't last as long because I crashed the ship. But I did better the next time.
Good job. You crashed. Way to go, Joanna.
Right.
Killed your husband.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was so overwhelming just being in the cockpit, just when there was a moment in which they said, okay, switch it to light speed. And we took off, and it was just, I can't even put into words the feeling. I mean, it was like we didn't want to touch any buttons because we wanted to experience it from the standpoint of, wow, this is just absolutely incredible.
And it felt like we were jumping into light speed.
Okay.
Like immediately. I mean, like you push that button and it thrusts you forward. And it was just really cool and great experience. And, I didn't want the ride to end.
No.
And, we wanted to stay in there and pilot again. But there were other people waiting.
So, all right, I just want to understand. You talked about Mission Space. I've ridden Mission Space tons of times, and to me, it's clear. You have 4 people in there. I have 4 jobs. It tells pilot do this. Whether you hit the buttons or not, it's going to happen. But what you're telling me on Millennium Falcon on this one, you don't do it, and you don't do it. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
No, and for example, when we talked to a cast member later on after we exited Galaxy's Edge, he asked us, "Did you get to a certain point?" He said, "Did you actually finish the ride?" Because he knew, because he had been on it multiple times himself. His first time, he did not get to the same point that he did. It's almost like a game in a sense.
Like a video game. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much like a video game in which you're playing this role, and if you don't fulfill your obligation, if your team around you is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, then you're right. Your life is going to end. Your experience of flying the Falcon is not going to last very long. Whereas if you have a better team around you, if you understand your role more, then you're going to have a longer ride, longer experience, and really a better experience.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my thought exactly. This is giant Mario or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
not different scenario, obviously, but
Right.
all right. How many people are in the cockpit with you when you said your team? How many is that?
Total of 6.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 pilots, 2 navigators, and
I believe it's gunners
yes.
and engineers.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So
Yeah.
pilots, gunners, and engineers.
Yeah.
Okay. So it would work really well if you had, say, a group of 6 people that you went in together and they've all
Yeah.
done it, and
Yeah.
you might
Exactly.
get pretty far.
Yeah, because
Oh, yeah.
it would be like left gunner, right pilot, and telling us what we needed to do, and then it would be up to us to actually do it or not.
This is off the wall, but I can see people, the dedicated fans, forming teams.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And this is
Oh,
your well-rehearsed job, and
Yeah.
this, going in there trying to make it all the way. It's going to
Talking to
happen.
people,
That would be you.
talking to people in the queue about, okay, have you had
Yeah.
experience being a gunner? Have you
Exactly.
had experience being the pilot? And literally making, like you said, making your team of,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to make sure that we have a better experience.
Oh yeah, it's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to there are people already doing that. Probably.
I'm sure there are.
That's awesome. How long did you have to wait to get onto that ride?
I think the first time we waited, was it 45 minutes?
Yeah, 45 minutes for the first time, but then the second time, since it was a little bit later in the evening and all, we only waited around 20 minutes the second time.
Yeah.
It was not a long wait whatsoever.
And there were no fast passes for this.
Oh,
Since it was
okay.
open to annual pass holders, it
Right.
was just a standby. There were no fast passes for that.
They
Okay.
do have a single rider line,
Right.
but we, of course, did not do the single rider line. But I'm sure single rider probably could have been on it in 5 to 10 minutes top.
Wow. Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure they will have fast passes, but they just didn't have it for this
Wasn't
when we
open.
were there.
Yeah, it wasn't officially open yet.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned Flight of Passage. I've ridden that. I'm going to be honest. I got off of it and I had to, kind of take it easy for a few minutes because I was feeling a little bit, queasy.
Right.
How does that compare in terms of what you're seeing visually and moving and all that?
So I definitely deal with motion sickness a lot more than you do.
Okay.
I can barely handle Flight of Passage. I cannot handle something like Expedition Everest. I can just
Wow,
too
that's
much
a
motion
shame.
sickness. I know most people love Expedition Everest. Obviously, Joanna, she'll ride Expedition Everest 5 times in a row
We need to
while
go,
I'm standing
Joanna.
outside. So yeah, it's one of those things.
Next
But
trip, I'm going.
you definitely need to, for sure. But with this ride, I don't know if it's because of being such a fan of the combination of video games and Star Wars itself, and just having a role to play in the ride. Yes, there was a lot of motion,
Yeah.
but yet it wasn't anything like Star Tours, for example.
Okay.
So it wasn't
Yeah.
something in which you felt out of control, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's part of my issue with the motion sickness. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But at the afterwards, being such a fan of the experience, as Joanna said earlier, we wanted to stay longer, but there's corridors to where you can just stand there and you feel like you're walking on different parts of the ship. So you can, if you need to take a break, you definitely can. However, because of what you're doing, to me, it did not give any of that motion sickness comparison to a Flight of Passage or compared to Expedition Everest or Star Tours or Mission Space, etc.
Yeah.
Now, okay, Joanna, you don't get motion sickness.
Oh, no.
All
I
right.
love rides. I love
All right.
roller coasters.
So you and I would do well while Shane and my wife did their own thing.
Definitely.
She doesn't ride anything.
Oh, that's a shame.
And it, I feel like she's just missed part of life having not been on Rock and Roller Coaster. Okay, well, that's great. That's great info. Now, you're talking about, I was asking you about the wait time. That brings me to something. There's some interesting reports coming out right now about Galaxy's Edge. And in terms of the crowd levels not being probably what Disney expected, I don't know. But, I'm hearing people are not seeing the massive wall-to-wall crowds that, I don't know, what, in your experience, now I know this was before it opened,
Right.
just for pass holders.
Right.
You could move easily around. There's no problem, right?
Right. Maybe it's because of it being the preview and all,
Yeah.
but we had no problems whatsoever. I mean, the only time that we had to stand in line, really the longest, was to get into the land for them to basically check our credentials, make sure that
Yeah.
we had reservation for a certain time, certain date. But then after that, once we were actually on Batu, really the wait times were not long at all for Smuggler's Run or Milk Stand. Really,
Yeah.
the only thing that we were not able to experience that we wanted to was going into the cantina.
Okay.
There was a long wait for that just because it is a smaller venue, so they don't have much capacity apparently
Right.
in that. So we weren't able to experience that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess time will tell.
Right.
6 months from now, look back and see how those crowds panned out. But
Yeah.
for any listeners out there, they're pondering going to Galaxy's Edge. What does every Disney fan need to know before going to Galaxy's Edge? Any tips?
What we mentioned before with kind of the snacks and the food, definitely if you are wanting to look for a meal or something like that, maybe look somewhere else. But and to me, they were a little limited on their snacks. Now, we did try the blue milk. I loved the blue milk, and one of the snacks that we did try, it was either a sausage wrap or you could do like a pork wrap, and it was more like a jerky type, almost like a beef jerky type thing. And it wasn't my favorite. But to us, the snacks were just a little bit limited. So definitely, if you're looking for like food or snacks, maybe go somewhere else. But Galaxy's Edge definitely has a lot more like to take in, like with the theming and, you know, building your own droid, or lightsaber or Smuggler's Run.
Well, thanks, Danny, for that interview, and thanks, Joanna and Shane, for sharing your experience at Galaxy's Edge with us. So first off, I need to send out a big apology. This episode is a week late due to some major technical issues and some scheduling issues as well. However, I'm glad I got the opportunity to listen to the quarterly earnings call with Disney and give a little report back. Robert Iger, president and chairman of Disney, basically admitted that overall attendance at Disney parks are down. This is an admission that many have been speculating about for a while and is now confirmed by the company. However, revenue was rescued by an uptick in consumer spending in the parks, and this is a direct result of the higher prices at Disneyland and Disney World. Now, the purpose of this podcast is not to get into the inner workings of Disney as a business, not at all. But there's an underlying issue that I believe does represent a huge problem, or a huge potential problem. I'm deeply concerned that Disney has forgotten, or is in the process of forgetting, that one of their greatest resources are the people that are working at the parks. Some of you may know in recent years, Disney's outsourced mousekeeping, which is the housekeeping service at all the resorts. They've reduced some of the unique entertainers that roam the parks and generally reduced staffing levels. If you've been to the parks in the last year, it's hard not to notice that the cleanliness of the parks is at an all-time low. So while it's great to have new ride technology and attractions opening and resorts, rides like Rise of the Resistance, it's the people and the service that Disney provides that separate Disney parks from their competition. So what am I saying here? Am I recommending that you rethink taking a trip to Disney? Absolutely not. It's still a truly magical place full of incredible employees that love their jobs and the company they work for. I had a conversation with a family that I booked travel for to Disney just a little bit ago. And, you know, we're talking about they were going to need a vacation from their vacation and, you know, some of the logistical things that happen on a Disney vacation. And he says, you know what? Everything was worth it when my daughter saw Mickey and Minnie Mouse. It was just a magical experience. And that's still the case. Nothing I've said should lead you to believe that that's not still the case. My point is simply that low attendance at Galaxy's Edge, or in the parks in general, in the short term, isn't the biggest threat to the company. Every family that I've spoken with or that booked travel to Disney loves Galaxy's Edge, loves the new addition to the park. And the Rise of the Resistance attraction that's opening soon has a chance to be truly special. Disney's a huge multinational, publicly traded company that has a responsibility to its shareholders, and I totally understand that. However, there is a real danger that the company's sacrificing their signature service, the very core of who Disney is, to satisfy a balance sheet. And that's a very, very real danger, and it's something that we're going to be watching closely here at the Family Vacationer. But maybe you want to go experience this new world for yourself. I would certainly love to help you plan that vacation to Disney or any magical destination you'd like to visit. My services as a vacation planner are always free to my clients. So if you'll email me today at rjones@starstufftravel, starstufftravel.com, we can start planning your magical vacation today. That's it for this episode. Again, my apologies for getting us off track a little bit. We'll be back in 2 weeks with an episode on multi-generational travel. Till next time.
Thank you for listening to The Family Vacationer. Make sure and subscribe to hear more of Rob and Danny.